We're now listening to the Dee Hankins Show. Life, curveballs, home runs, the Dee Hankins Show. Are you ready? Let's go.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dee Hankins Show, where we talk about life, help you with your curveballs, and celebrate your home runs. I am your host, Dee Hankins, and for the past few episodes on this podcast, we have been really breaking down the 3-bucket philosophy, which includes 3 buckets. Bucket number 1, my choices, that's your seat of power. Bucket number 2, that's others' choices you have no control over, but you have influence. And then bucket number 3, natural disasters, acts of God, aka things that are out of your control, the bucket of absolute zero control, 0 authority, and 0 influence. But today we're going internal. We're talking about a different structural error. Like what happens when you mix my choices with things that you have 0 control over. This is episode 27. Don't mix your buckets. Part 2, frustration. Let's get into it. Every one of us knows that feeling of being stuck, all right? But we often mislabel it. We mislabel it as stress or having a bad day. But if we really take a look at it, what you're actually dealing with is what we call frustration. By definition, frustration is the feeling of being upset or annoyed, specifically because of the inability to change or achieve something. When you mix water, bucket number 1, and oil, bucket number 3, you get frustration, okay? No matter how, if you pour oil into water, no matter how much you stir, no matter how much you shake, no matter how powerful the tool, those two don't mix. And so what you're just doing is wasting a lot of energy trying to put together 2 things that just refuse to mix. And frustration is that telltale sign that you are mixing your buckets. Like when you start to get angry about something, when you feel that heat in your chest and your hands clench up and your jaw clench up and you get that mental fog for, reading into something that's in bucket number 3, you are having a physical reaction in your body to something that you have an inability, meaning you are not capable of changing this certain something, yet you are feeling the weight of that in your own body. You are turning a steering wheel that is not connected to any type of tires at all. Sure, you're being active. It may feel like you're driving, but you're not going anywhere. You're just wasting energy. That's what frustration feels like. Wasting massive amounts of energy on nothing or on something completely unnecessary. So again, I ask, why is understanding this important? Bucket number 1, my choices, has finite energy, meaning a limited amount of energy. You yourself are like a battery. You have a certain amount of energy for yourself, for your friends, for your family, for your kids, but you need to recharge every night. Literally, you have to, just like you plug in your phone to recharge, you also have to recharge every single night. And even though you sleep for 8 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours, you have a ceiling on how much energy you actually have. And most of you are draining it for no reason. Look at where you spend your emotional currency. Now, if you want to really see what mixing your buckets looks like on a national scale, do you remember when LeBron James first left Cleveland? Dude, people lost their minds, burning jerseys, taking out scissors and chainsaws, cutting shoes, risking their lives to vandalize posters and signs. There was visible hate. There was visible anger, and there was visible frustration within that community. But here's the reality. LeBron still left. Not one burnt jersey, made him stay. Not one 30-minute hate-filled Facebook post caused that man to stay. All those fans or ex-fans or former fans or whatever the case may be, all they did was drain their own energy. Meanwhile, while they're cutting up jerseys, yada, yada, he's signing another, $1 million contract, playing with the Heat, winning championships and all that stuff. Like, to physically change, think about this. They physically changed their body's chemistry, stressing their heart out, clouding their minds for something they had zero ability to change. He still left. So think about that. Are you doing that right now with something in the news, some sports figure, some sports team? Like, what are you stressing out about right now? How are you changing your own body's chemistry, flooding your body with cortisol, lacking sleep, missing sleep, getting in arguments, feeling angry, being snappy over something that you can't control? Now, are you doing that right now? Are you staring at the news 24/7, having emotional reactions to global headlines? Like, if you know every list in the Epstein files, but don't know your child's teachers' names or if they're failing middle school or not, your priorities are messed up. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I'm just using very polarizing global stuff going on because I see it. Like, we are stressing out and we are leaving stuff that we need to do behind or not giving it as much as attention as we're giving things that you cannot physically change right now. We're talking, we're spending hours on social media, arrest these people and do this and do that. Meanwhile, your meatloaf is burning in the oven because you're glued to your phone. You haven't worked out. You missed your workout because you've been arguing back and forth with some troll on Instagram. And guess what? Nothing has changed. You are bankrolling a fantasy while your reality is going bankrupt. And you got to stop that. Some of y'all may be watching this and be like, damn, like that's me, okay? Why do I do this? Why am I like this? And I'll tell you why. There's a psychological component to this frustration, right? Wanting to control the uncontrollables and being frustrated. Psychological component, okay? The first is ego protection. This is why we make excuses. Psychologically, we use what they call in psychology an external locus of control. All right. And what that means is if I can point out everything externally that's wrong with me, I don't have to worry about it. I'm good. I don't have to change. Right. If it's the system's problem, if it's the government's problem, I don't have to change. I can just point the blame to them. That's an external locus control. Those who have an internal locus control believe that what you put in is what you get out. When you have an internal locus of control, your ego is at the forefront. When you have an external locus of control, you don't have to worry. Your ego is protected, right? Because the only reason that you have problems is because of something else. I don't have to admit that I need to be more disciplined or I need to do harder work. So bucket number 3 becomes a graveyard of potential. Another reason is shared outrage, okay? The crowd. By nature, we are tribal. We crave relationship. We crave connection. And being angry with another group of angry people feels like connection, okay? And I'll use another example, another polarizing political example that everybody's eyes were on. And it's not to point fingers or anything like this. It's just to use as a psychological example. You think of the storming of the Capitol. Now, people were visibly frustrated and visibly upset, same as the whole LeBron thing, right? To an extent where a group of angry people, frustrated with certain things out of their control, decided to take matters into their own hands. Now, with all that anger and all that frustration, did they change one single law that day? No. However, people died, arrests were handed out, and families were torn apart forever. And all of that was born from an inability to accept the reality of bucket number 3. It was a massive spend of emotional currency that resulted in nothing but wreckage. Which brings me to my next point, cognitive ease. Complaining is mentally cheap. It takes very little effort to be frustrated with the news. Bucket number 1 work, like studying for that certification, doing the grueling work of repairing, your marriage, or managing your budget when money is tight, is expensive work. Most people choose the noise of bucket number 3 because they aren't willing to choose the hard, quiet work of my choices, of myself, of bucket number 1. It's a lot easier to be a victim of the world than it is to be the owner of your choices. Now, we've all been there. I've been there. I'm not going to stop being there sometimes. Remember, the 3-bucket philosophy needs to be mastered. Not mastered in one day. It happens years and years over time. So if you catch yourself being frustrated, right, this is how you get out of it. Radical acceptance. We already talked about radical responsibility. Now we're on to radical acceptance. Acceptance is a thorough 100% down to the bone acknowledgement of reality. Now listen, I'm not saying that protesting or signing petitions isn't effective. I'm not saying that at all. That's how you create systematic change. You rally together, you put something in place that can combat the system or combat something that you want to change. I'm not saying that's not effective at all. As a matter of fact, it's very effective. What I am saying is that, are you spending the same amount of energy focusing on things that you can actually control? If you spent 8 hours arguing over social media and 0 hours looking at your business plan, you're not an activist. You're just frustrated. So you have to pivot, okay? That's how you learn to get out of this frustration. You have to pivot. So here are some examples, because I know I've been there. Let's say you planned a party, and I know I use this example a lot, but I think it's because it's the most relatable. You plan a party, okay? It's going well. You see the clouds rolling in. You're like, please, 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 please don't rain. And it starts to rain. Can that be frustrating? Absolutely. Is that frustrating? Absolutely, right? And so what we do first, right, before we even pivot, is we acknowledge that we're frustrated. We acknowledge that we're annoyed. We let out a grunt that goes, come on, I put in all this work and now you want to rain. Acknowledge that, okay? But then you cannot stay there. You cannot visit or live in bucket number 3 because no one is in your seat of power. So therefore, you have to pivot in order to get back into bucket number 1. So how do we pivot from a rained out party? Take it to the garage, right? Maybe you don't have the space. Maybe you just take it in the house and you try to do your best to make it the best experience that you can for your guests. Why? Because that's all you can do. Sitting outside, saying clouds, clouds don't have pity on you. They don't care about your party. They care nothing about your wedding. They care nothing about what you're doing. They just do what they're supposed to do. So it makes no point standing outside screaming and beating your chest. You acknowledge the pain and then you pivot and you do something that is within your control. Some people get upset with billionaires. Right now, billionaires, like there's a lot of people that are just like, billionaires, we don't need them, so on and so forth. It's just like, you're not going to change their net worth from your couch. Like, it's just not going to happen, okay? Now, I understand that you may be living in a studio apartment and your bills are overdue and you're extremely frustrated and you're watching some billionaire, throw $16,000 bottles of champagne over his, $3 million yacht and eating shrimp and all this other stuff, that yes. So acknowledge that. Oh man, that sucks. It feels unfair. I feel slighted. Okay. You acknowledge your emotions and then you pivot. And one of those pivots is this: stop buying from Amazon. You decide where your money goes. It's easy to say it's because of the billionaires that I can't get ahead, or you can do the quiet, hard bucket number one work that says, okay, I need a plan. I need a business plan. I need a budget plan. I need to increase my income. I need to come up with something that I can utilize. Like right now, for instance, I went to this AI summit. Right now, so many jobs are opening for AI. Okay. You could literally sit down, take courses and courses and courses and learn as much as you can about AI. This is the new, Bitcoin or the new .com era or the new whatever. You can do that. You know what people are doing though? Oh, I hate AI. AI is going to take over this and that, so on and so forth. So while some people are getting stupid rich off of learning AI, which is this new tool, there are some of you that are still broke complaining about the new tool, right? And you can't change it. AI is not going anywhere. Like nobody's listening to Grandma Judy complain about AI, and then somebody's going to be like, all right, you know what, Grandma Judy, you're right. I'm going to, cancel my AI. No, that's the new thing, right? Now you cannot utilize it. You have that choice, but complaining about it is not going to change it. And you're just frustrated. You know what I'm saying? So what is your bucket one move? How do you pivot? Okay. And then last but not least, probably the biggest one right now is dealing with a president that you disagree with. Right now, this is where I see the most frustration in the country because it's very polarizing, right? You have people who just absolutely love who's sitting in the White House, and you have people who absolutely despise who's sitting in the White House. I'm neutral in this situation as I understand that it's out of my control. The votes are in and this is what we got to deal with. So now I have to pivot and figure out what is it that I can do. So a way for y'all to do that is, that your videos, your hour-long videos and your hour-long whatever's, discords on, and your 20-page Facebook posts about how you don't like them, it's not going to veto any bills. Straight up. It's not going to change anything for the next 4 years. Like, just being real. Okay. Now, first, you have to acknowledge that some of his policies right now, some of the things that he's doing is scary. Some of the things that he's doing seems unfair or not right. Maybe some supporters are, racist or whatever the case may be. But you have to understand, you cannot control who people vote for. You cannot control who people like or dislike. That is out of your control. So acknowledge that, feel those emotions, and then figure out where you can pivot. And the only way you can pivot is you have to be the president of your own house and your own zip code. Serve your neighbors, love your family, hang out with your friends, right? How many of you have been so glued to the news and on social media that you've ignored your kids, you've ignored the people that are right in front of you, and you have changed nothing. You've just complained. But you acknowledge that, and then you figure out, deep breath, 60 seconds, and go, okay, how do I pivot? How do I get back into bucket number one? That's how you stop mixing your buckets. So I want to leave you all with this quote by my good friend, Dr. Jaya John. And the quote reads like this: "The audacity of grass to keep growing after it has been cut down 1,000 times. Thank you, teacher." Now, the point of this quote isn't about the mower. It's about the growth, okay? The grass doesn't sit in a state of frustration because it got trimmed. It's like, I got to do what I got to do. And the only thing that I can do is grow. Some of you feel like you have been cut down by systems, oppression, laws, bills, unfair rules, unjust treatment 1,000 times. You've only been able to be cut down 1,000 times because you kept growing 1,000 times, right? Like, I really want you to think about that. You've only been hurt this many times because you're still here, because you're still standing, because you're still making moves, right? And even as like a person of the Black community, I oftentimes have to remind myself about this. There have been so many things that have happened. There have been so many clueless people out there just, thinking that Black people woke up in poor neighborhoods and violent crime and all this other stuff. And at times I do get frustrated, right? I get frustrated with people's just lack of education and accountability. However, I go back to this quote, and I've told Jaya this is one of my favorite quotes. I go back to this quote all the time to get me out of that fog. No matter what has been done, what rules, what policies, redlining, all that other stuff, we as a people have risen to the occasion time and 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 time again. So stop being frustrated that the world or somebody is trying to cut you down. Instead, use that energy as fertilizer for your next season of growth. Remember, you aren't a victim of the blade. You are a master of the roots. I appreciate y'all rocking with me this week. If I said something that struck a nerve, that made you think, or if I helped you break free of this frustration, please like, subscribe, share my content with somebody who may be frustrated, addicted to the news, addicted to their phone, addicted to social media and the stuff that's going around while they're missing out on life. I really appreciate y'all. Stop mixing your buckets, and remember, life throws curveballs, but even curveballs can be hit for home run. I'll see y'all next week.
Those curveballs.